So, have you ever looked at the world around you? The billboards, the pervasive advertising, the expectations baked into every romantic comedy and just felt fundamentally out of step.
Hmm.
Like there's this constant low-level pressure suggesting that sexual attraction isn't just common, but mandatory for a full, meaningful life.
That feeling,
Yeah.
that feeling of existing just slightly outside the cultural consensus is really at the heart of our deep dive today.
Right.
Our mission is to take a sophisticated look at what it means to be asexual or ace in an environment that just assumes sexual attraction is the default experience for everyone. We want to move beyond the simple definitions and understand the complexity, the spectrum,
And the social implications.
exactly, the
Yeah.
profound social implications of this orientation.
Okay, so let's unpack this. When we talk about asexuality, the definition, the one from groups like the Asexuality, Visibility, and Education Network, AVN, it's pretty clear, experiencing little to no sexual attraction.
It is clear.
But for listeners who might already be familiar with the basics, I think we need to immediately clarify what asexuality is not, because this is where all the popular confusion really begins.
That's a great point. What's fascinating here is the crucial difference between sexual attraction and other factors, like, say, sexual behavior or libido.
Okay.
Asexuality is about who you're drawn to, or, well, who you are not sexually drawn to. It's an internal orientation. It's not about whether you have a low sex drive or if you choose to be abstinent or...
Or if you're just a late bloomer.
Right, that's a big one. It's none of those things.
That distinction is so vital. A person can have a high libido, an active sex drive, and still be asexual.
Yes,
Because those feelings are purely physiological, they're not rooted in attraction to a specific person.
exactly. And conversely, someone might have a very low sex drive but still be allosexual if they, occasionally feel that distinct pull of sexual attraction towards others.
So it's about the orientation of desire, not the presence of drive.
Precisely.
Mm.
And once we establish that attraction versus libido, then we can start to appreciate the spectrum.
The ace spectrum.
Right. Asexuality isn't a single switch. It's not on-off. It's a vast range of experience.
And this is where that nuanced language comes in. You hear terms like graysexual or demisexual. What are we trying to capture with those specific labels?
Well, the graysexual identity, for example, describes people who experience sexual attraction very rarely or infrequently or only under really specific and limited conditions.
So it's that middle ground.
It's that middle ground where the experience isn't zero, but it's certainly not the pervasive experience that society assumes.
Mm-hmm.
And then demisexuality adds another layer of conditionality. Sexual attraction only comes up after a strong, emotional, sometimes romantic bond has been formed.
So the attraction isn't spontaneous, it's relational. It grows out of a connection.
Yes.
What stands out to me in all this is that the spectrum just demands that we stop viewing sexuality as a binary and start seeing it as a really complex interaction between what social, emotional, and physical triggers.
I think so. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the reason this identity requires such detailed categorization is because we live in a system of, well, it's called compulsory sexuality.
Allonormativity.
Allonormativity, yes.
Yeah.
And this system doesn't just assume everyone is capable of sexual attraction. It assumes everyone should desire it, seek it, and prioritize it as a major life goal.
That systemic pressure, that constant, relentless assumption, that's what can make being ace so isolating. It's not just in blockbuster movies, it's in everyday life. When you're pressured to download a dating app or when a doctor just makes assumptions about your sexual activity.
Or even when friends just casually ask about your romantic progress.
Yes, it creates this foundational invalidation. You think about social milestones.
Right?
Graduation, getting a job, buying a home.
Sure.
For allosexual people, these often lead into discussions about finding the one, which almost always includes sexual compatibility. For asexual people, that entire script is just unusable, but they're often forced to follow it anyway.
And the invalidating phrases people hear, they're often couched in concern, but they're so profoundly harmful.
Oh, absolutely. The classic, you just haven't met the right person yet.
Or it's just a phase, you'll grow out of it.
Right.
That kind of language implies asexuality is a deficiency, a temporary state, or a problem that's just waiting for a correction.
Which raises an important question. Why do we as a culture insist that sexual attraction is the missing ingredient required for a person to be complete?
It's a huge question. And the core truth we have to accept is that love, profound connection, intimacy, and happiness, they can and they do exist completely separate from sexual attraction.
Any relationship built on mutual respect and care is valid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Regardless of sexual involvement.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me, the emotional toll of that invisibility. While the LGBTQ plus community has made these significant strides in visibility, the ACE community often remains largely misunderstood or, worse, just ignored.
Yeah, the lack of representation is a deep structural issue. When asexual characters are represented in fiction, and often without the label even being used, they fall back on these old negative stereotypes.
Like what?
They're shown as robots, or emotionally frigid, or intellectually detached. The narrative suggests that if you lack sexual desire, you must therefore lack the capacity for human warmth.
Which couldn't be further from the truth.
Not at all.
Asexuality is a neutral trait. It's a natural variation in human existence. It doesn't determine personality or emotional capacity or desire for depth connection.
In fact, for many ace individuals, because sexual attraction is absent, they actually place an even greater emphasis on defining and cultivating other forms of connection.
And this leads us to that critical layer of complexity, right? The different kinds of attraction.
Yes, human connection is incredibly broad. We have to look at how romantic orientation, the desire for a romantic relationship, interacts with asexuality.
This is the difference between being ace and being aro.
Exactly. Aro, or aromantic, means a lack of romantic attraction. And you're not just talking about one axis anymore. You're talking about two separate orientations.
So an asexual person might identify as homoromantic, meaning they only desire romantic relationships with people of the same gender.
Or biromantic or heteromantic. Sure.
Yeah.
The point is, they're romantic and their sexual orientations are distinct.
And beyond that, we see the importance of other attractions in the ace community.
Right. There's this whole other spectrum. You have emotional attraction, that desire for intellectual and deep mutual understanding.
Aesthetic attraction.
Yes, appreciating someone's beauty without any desire to be sexual with them. Platonic attraction, which is the cornerstone of deep friendship, and sensual attraction.
Which is the desire for non-sexual touch, like cuddling or hugging or holding hands.
Exactly. And listing these different forms of attraction isn't just academic.
No, it paints a picture of fulfillment. It shows that human connection isn't a pipeline that runs exclusively through sex. For many ace people, these other forms of connection are the foundational building blocks of their most important relationships.
And we should probably circle back one more time to the distinction between attraction and behavior.
Okay.
Because it holds enormous weight in how an ace person navigates relationships. Being asexual does not mean being anti-sex or sex repulsed. It just means sex holds no inherent magnetic pull based on attraction.
So this means an asexual person might choose to be sex favorable.
Yes. They might be comfortable having sex for reasons other than attraction, to please a partner, to conceive children, or just because they find it physically pleasurable.
Or they could be, on the other end, sex-averse, where the idea of sexual activity is just deeply uncomfortable.
It's all about personal agency and comfort. The crucial takeaway is that for asexual individuals, sex is a negotiated behavior, not a necessary expression of intimacy or a required precondition for love.
Which contrasts so sharply with the allosexual experience, where sexual attraction often forms the core motivation for the whole relationship.
Yeah.
The path to self-acceptance for so many people seems to begin with just finding the right language. I mean, for decades, many individuals who were discovering their orientation felt so isolated, they just assumed they were broken or weird.
And that moment of recognition, the moment they encounter the word asexuality, is profoundly empowering.
It changes everything.
It shifts the entire internal dialogue from I am malfunctioning to I have a name for this natural part of my identity. It is the relief of realizing that your experience is normal, it's valid, and it's shared by a massive growing community.
And that validation is then amplified by the community itself, which provides support, resources, and shared understanding.
So in this context, labels aren't limiting, they're liberating.
They're the keys to finding others who speak the same language of attraction and relationship.
So what does this all mean for us? For the listeners who may or may not be ace, I think it means recognizing that the entire concept of sexuality is far more nuanced than we often allow.
It's a spectrum of desire and behavior and attraction.
And embracing that complexity allows us to move away from rigid, hypersexualized expectations and acknowledge that fulfillment is entirely internal. It's not external or relational.
The journey of understanding asexuality fundamentally reminds us that human connection is broad, it's deep, and it can take countless valid forms.
It demands that we challenge the cultural assumption that one specific type of attraction has to be universal for human beings to thrive.
And that challenge opens up a deeper philosophical question, I think, about knowledge itself.
Go on.
Well, just consider the immense power of having language for an internal experience. If a word or a label for a fundamental orientation or identity is just missing from the public conversation, how many people struggle alone, perhaps for decades, unaware that their natural, inherent experience is completely normal and valid?
The very existence of language.
Yeah, it's the first step toward universal acceptance.